Welcome to our weekly program, The Inside Story of Chabad in America through the Mindel Archives. In honor of Chov Bei Shvat, the yortzeit of the Rebbetzin Chaim Mushke, I want to dedicate this program to the Rebbetzin and to Jewish women. We already spoke a few months ago about the Rebbetzin, who she was when she came to America. But today, I want to share with you read a letter from the original letters, some notes pertaining Jewish women, the Taras HaMishpacha, Bataras HaMishpacha, and also girls before marriage, how to prepare pre-teenage girls. They should become, when they become mature, adults. And this is what I want to share with you. And I will share with you later on at the end a special letter that the Rebbe wrote to my wife, a revolutionary idea that the Rebbe had. And this was in the 70s. This will in the end of this program. A group of uncommitted women came to Crown Heights for a lecture about Taras HaMishpacha, purity of the family. So the lecturer, the shliach that brought him here to Crown Heights, wrote to the Rebbe that he has difficulty to explain to the people about family planning. And the woman that is going to do the lecture also has a problem about family planning. And she doesn't know what to do. So they're asking the Rebbe what they should do, how they should speak to the people, to convince them about Taras HaMishpacha. So, family planning. So here I'm going to read the letter. The Rebbe gave this letter to Rabbi Mindel, what they wrote. So I have it here. And I want to read this inside to be exact. So this letter is how to present Taras HaMishpacha to the uncommitted. So this is what he wrote. One of the young women active in this field told me that she, as well as all of her colleagues, are having great difficulty in convincing one particular aspect of the recently expressed position of the Rebbe Shlita on the topic of family planning. Many people are willing to accept all the points about the ongoing obligation of Pirio Verivio, having children, as well as the observance of Taras HaMishpacha. But nevertheless, they, and this she wrote here, this includes also frum couples, tend to indulge in a limited degree and kind of family planning, quote unquote, by spacing, quote unquote, or spreading out their children over several years, instead of having one right after the other without a break. It is very hard to persuade them that this is wrong. They are able to cite numerous seemingly reasonable and impressive arguments in favor of this practice. These are based on personal, psychological, and financial considerations. They revolve largely around the physical and mental health of the mother, claiming that the average woman simply needs a rest of a year, of 2 years, or 3 years between pregnancies, especially after she has already been through a few. I was asked to suggest on how to approach this point, but aside from the usual religious arguments about trusting in the Almighty's wisdom, goodness, blessings, which arguments are by themselves apparently insufficient. to persuade most people. I too am unable to devise any additional replies to this question. Because this is such an important and sensitive issue, and especially because the Rebbe Shlita, during the Farbringen of last Shabbos, urged people to ask him for clarification of unclear or problem matters, I would therefore ask Kveit Kedushas Admur Shlita for clarification of this matter. If in effect the position of the Rebbe Shlita is being correctly interpreted as being opposed to even this above mentioned kind of limited family planning, quote unquote, then we are in need of and respectfully request his guidance and help in how to convey this successfully to frum and non-frum alike. In addition to counter arguments based on emunah ubitochen, those of us working in the field feel very strongly the need of supplementary arguments of irrational and pragmatic nature. And since we're going to have, he writes the meeting tomorrow, Sunday night, so I'm asking the Rebbe for an answer, and then the Shliach signs his name. Okay, this is the question that he asked. The Rebbe answered in Lashon Kodesh, in Hebrew, and here is the translation in English. Al dvar spacing v'chulu, shayach b'dover hatoloi b'bchiras ha'odom, v'nimtzo b'rshus ha'odom, rak b'nigeya l'miniyas haroyin. Aval ha'royin v'shayi avlad, b'tachlis ha'shleimus, toloi rak b'Hashem, ve'efshar she'im lo yachshav emosai, u'ledivre hakel, apiteva, kol she'o isho tz'ira yoser, havlad mushlam yoser. The Rebbe answers like this. A human being, excuse me, has the option, and it is within one's capability to prevent conception. But because conception itself, and that the baby should be perfectly healthy, this is exclusively up to Hashem, since a human being cannot assure conception at will. Not whatever she wants. It's up to the Eibishter. One may well ask, if not now, when? However, all agree that in the natural order, a younger woman is likely to give birth to a more perfect baby. So in other words, if a person doesn't know when, so, I mean, chas v'sholem, a person, if they're going to rely on their own, so they might chas v'sholem not have children b'chlal. So you have to rely on the Eibishter. And the second one needs rest. The Rebbe writes in Hebrew, Kosho lahamin sha'isha shekvar toma v'kibul b'poil haytainu v'nachas ruach b'ladas yeled u'b'giduloi. Okay, this is the Hebrew, so I'm going to just do the English. It is difficult to believe, the Rebbe says, that a woman who has already experienced the joy of giving birth to a child, holding her baby in her arms, and following each step of her child's advancements, thanks to the care of rearing that she has been giving to her child, and so on, should consent, not to mention desire, to deprive herself of all that real pleasure for the sake of the above-mentioned reasons. All the more so after reflecting seriously on what has been said in the preceding answer. And the last thing the Rebbe says, what about those who fear the pain, as you mentioned? So the Rebbe answered here, the real reason behind such fear is the inconvenience, albeit temporary, of being unable to participate in various social events and similar inconvenience for a period of time. Not least is the thought a fundamental introduction to the entire Shulchan Aruch. What will the scoffer say? That's what the Rebbe says. That's what she's afraid. She might be ashamed that she has a lot of children or whatever. In summary, when a woman is given to understand what the true obstacles are, she will surely up to leave it to Hashem to decide when is the good time for her to be blessed with additional healthy and happy children. And then the Rebbe says much more could be said to expand, but as well, yesh laharich b'chol anar v'gam lahoisiv oit. This is what the Rebbe answered this answer. So I thought I would read this. So this is exactly the way that people asked and what the Rebbe answered. Now one more paragraph before I get to the girls. A woman asked the Rebbe, and I'm not going to read the letter because it's not a letter to read, and I don't want to read it. But she complains to the Rebbe that the whole Taras HaMishpacha doesn't make any sense. So this is one paragraph I'm going to read what the Rebbe wrote in Hebrew. And this is a translation in English. It is not at all understood that when it comes to the health of a minor organ or a tooth, she asks the opinion of a doctor because he studied this subject for many years. But when all those, and he underlined, who studied the topic of Taras HaMishpacha, family purity, say that this pertains and is fundamental to Shalom Bayis, family harmony, the health of her entire body, and that of her husband Sheyichya, she says that this is not so. Even though she is aware that she has not studied at all, and the Rebbe underlined the word at all in Hebrew, about the reasons of Taras HaMishpacha. It is known that there are women who heaven have pity on them, Rahman al-Islam, do not observe Taras HaMishpacha. But it is also known that consequences over time, even though they are ashamed to admit the misfortune they have brought upon themselves, and they have become mentally confused to the point where they do not recognize what is happening to them and the causes. Heaven protect us. This is a very sharp answer to this woman about Taras HaMishpacha. Now the last thing I'm going to say here is in Tovshin, in early Lameds, my wife was 1 year, she was the head of Nishei, she was the president of Nishei, and then she was the head of the Chinuch committee. So they made a session here. There were 4 sessions. This was, they wrote to the Rebbe. One session was getting back to basics. One session was to raise the Hasidic child, girls and boys, Chinuch. One session was your child's potential nurturing nature, and one was the homeschool team. And each session they had a guest lecturer, and they wrote to the Rebbe. So the Rebbe answered, first of all, the Rebbe answered, ask Allah Tziyin, and the Rebbe says that all these that you wrote is very necessary. Then the Rebbe added in Hebrew, this is a letter to my wife, because she was the head of the Chinuch committee. Okay, this I'm going to translate this into English. This is in Hebrew. It is a good idea, the Rebbe says, to add in the second session, meaning to the raise a Chassidish child, an explanation of tznius, in general, and perhaps also as a topic in of itself. And in the home, it is necessary as well. Explaining this is of utmost importance. That's number 1. Number 2, it's from Hebrew. At the end, it should be added, the Rebbe said, the preparation of the girls and explaining to them the appearance of adolescence, the vest monthly cycle, and the reaction to this, and the increased tznius Understandably, the professional who explains all this should be a woman. And this is what they got from the Rebbe. They wrote there, adolescent stage in life, preparing and helping our daughters through their pre-adolescent stage in life. And what the Rebbe advancing the mothers on how to introduce this topic to their daughters about the physical changes in her body, such as her monthly cycle, with the need for increased tznius. So this was a revolutionary thing. The Rebbe's idea that I think what they did was then they went to Beis Yaakov and to Esther Schonfeld and to more schools, and the Rebbe said it. This is something new, and this is a very important topic, preparing our daughters and guiding them through adolescence, a topic whose time has come. And they wrote to the Rebbe back and forth. It's not important right now. So, now by the way, the Rebbe said that there should be a woman that should give a lecture. Rabbi Chadakov I have a letter from Rabbi Chadakov. He says, that was his opinion. Bichlal, men should not teach girls, or give lectures, I guess. Only women to women, men to men. Then he says, the Rebbe spoke a couple years, to Neshech Chabad, Rebbe spoke to women, but he made sure that I was standing there, Rabbi Chadakov said, and Rabbi Groner, Rabbi Klein, but just a man, he doesn't feel. That's a Maimer HaMusgar, what Rabbi Chadakov said. Now, here we see about Taras HaMishpacha, and I think that in Schus von der Rebbetzin, Lilo Nishmas der Rebbetzin, instead of speaking about her godless, which we all know, her tzidkes, Poshet Chayit in a Libay. If the Sheikh Chabad or women can organize this thing again, I think it would be a very important thing for the neshama. And this is the lesson for today. In the Mitzvah Hashem, next week we will continue our weekly program. Thank you.